Welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast, the variety show for all things Airtable. In each episode, we cover 4 different segments. It's always fresh and different, and lots of fun while you get the insider info on all things Airtable. Our hosts and guests are some of the most senior experts in the Airtable community. Join us live each week on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and join our active community at BuiltOnAir.com. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, On2Air Backups. On2Air Backups provides automated Airtable backups to your cloud storage for secure and reliable data protection. Prevent data loss and set up a secure Airtable backup system with On2Air Backups at On2Air.com. As one customer, Sarah, said, having automated Airtable backups has freed up hours of my time every other week and the fear of losing anything. Longtime customer David states, On2Air Backups might be the most critical piece of the puzzle to guard against unforeseeable disaster. It's easy to set up, and it just works. Join Sarah, David, and hundreds more Airtable users like you to protect your Airtable data with On2Air Backups. Sign up today with promo code BuiltOnAir for a 10% discount. Check them out at On2Air.com. And now let's check out today's episode and see what we built on air.
Welcome back to the BuiltOnAir podcast. This is the final episode, episode 8 of season 20. Good to be with you. We'll be off for the remainder of the year until we start season 21 in January. So excited to wrap up the year with a great episode for you. Got myself, Alli, back with us. Camille is out today, but we've got special guest Stoil. Welcome.
Hello.
Am I saying your name right? How do you say
Yeah,
it?
close enough. Close enough.
Close enough. American
Don't worry
accent.
about it. Yeah, exactly.
Say it so the audience knows how to say your name.
Okay, it's, if you insist, the actual home version is Stoil, but Stoil is completely fine, so don't worry about it.
Stoil. Very good. Well, welcome. We'll get to hear his story coming up in the show. But first, I'll walk us through what today's show is going to entail. We always start with our round the bases on what's going on in all the communities and product updates from Airtable. Then sponsorship from On2Air Backups. Talk about them for a second. And then Stoil will give us his story and background and how he came into this world of Airtable. Then he will showcase his product called SyncGrip and how that works with Airtable and other tools. And then a shout out to join our community. And then finally, we'll have Alli wrap us up with doing Documint and invoice generation using Documint, a third-party tool. So with that, around the bases. So a couple new things. There's one thing I didn't actually see many people talking about this, although I did see one person. Reuse record detail across app sections. So basically, this is inside of interfaces. Are you familiar with this, Alli?
Yes.
What's going on here?
Yeah. So previously, if you had several different interface groups of pages, so that's like when you go to create an interface, you can say it says either create interface or create page underneath that interface. So they're basically just like bundles of pages that are underneath it. And previously, the record detail pages that you created in one of those sets of interface pages could only be used within that same set. And I've actually have had the situation happen where I've been frustrated because I've had to go find the page that I created the detail on, duplicate it into the other interface set, and then like use the record detail page and then delete it. Now I don't have to worry about ever doing that. You can just create the detail page on any interface page, and then you can point any detail page at that, no matter which interface you're in.
Is there a way to, so could you use it as a starting point, or if you make any changes to one of them, it updates on both? Is there a way to like unlink it so they could then become different?
I think you could, yeah. You can duplicate the layout that you're like, you can say duplicate current layout and then change the name of it. Just make sure you change the name of it, because otherwise they all end up saying project detail, project detail, project detail. And then it's like so confusing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Cool. That's a nice time saver in Interface Builder. Let's see. I think that's the only new one we haven't talked about. So on LinkedIn, Julian Motet talks about this. A lot of time saved in terms of maintenance, no longer need to duplicate pages from one interface to another, transfer layout, time to clean up your interfaces. So that is a nice shout out to the new feature. Okay, let's move on. So that's new. That's the new thing, new feature update that we're aware of. Okay, this one I thought was interesting. So this is a bit more technical. A link to their technical blog. Dive into how they added embedding powered capabilities to Airtable's custom in-memory database. So if you're a bit technical and like to see under the hood of how they're doing things, this is a good blog post for you. And let's see, anything worth pulling out here? It's kind of cool to see, if you want to know like how Airtable is built under the hood, this is a pretty good article.
That's awesome.
And so I'm going to go back and read this afterwards, see if there's anything. But it's also good if you like to get more into the technical details. They don't write too often, but when they do, they're pretty detailed and under the hood. So kind of cool blog there. Okay. Next one also from LinkedIn. So this is there's actually a couple here we'll talk about. Talking about the Airtable AI and the ability to extract data from documents, so from attachments, and some use cases. So Fang Company is building an AI-powered research repository to help product teams quickly surface insights how existing users research. Media company pulling data from crew sheets, budgets, and production schedules. Leading car rental company automating vehicle sales process, extracting warranty and service data from unstructured documents to sell cars faster. Mm-hmm. So it's starting to gain traction. There's one more here from Alex talking about testing out the what he calls OCR function, which is a little bit different. I think it might be smart enough to read like images. It looks like that's what he's talking about instead of just text. So it has like OCR built into the AI, which is pretty cool. Just kind of scary if again, this AI functionality, there's a whole industry around OCR data, PDF extraction that OpenAI can eliminate that entire industry.
Seriously. And I don't know, if you've ever taken a PDF and just tried to convert it to Word or Excel, it is not pretty most of the time. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the characters wrong. It'll switch out, I don't know, F's for T's sometimes. So I'm excited to see what the capabilities of this really are.
Yeah. So anyways, a lot going on there. Excited to see usage of it. We're starting to utilize it in some client work. And so cool stuff built right into your Airtable. All right, here's a complaint that comes up every so often. Why is giving this company money so hard? Somebody looks like a nonprofit trying to just get them to get the nonprofit discount, and looks like not getting a response. So yeah, especially if you're relatively small, it's difficult to get their attention. They definitely are focusing on higher enterprise tier clients. So that is unfortunate. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is a product, Glide Apps, that is a pretty interesting product. A lot of people use it in conjunction with Airtable. It sits on top of Airtable to build apps, to build client portals, to build mobile. They support more than Airtable, but they also have their own standalone products. So they have their own database. But anyways, they now are launching scheduled workflows. So you can set up automations to send out, daily reports, new invoices, things like that. So basically, like the automation layer that Airtable has, they're implementing more of that, workflows, things like that. So starting to see a lot more overlap in the tool sets. So pretty interesting. There we go. Next one. Okay. So this is a complaint you hear fairly often. There's no way to set view edit privileges per table for each user. I love Airtable, want to use it, but we've been requesting this for 5 years. I don't think that's going to come. They've made it pretty clear that permissions are now at the interface level. And I think, Alli, that's what you told them. And you can set up restrictions and granular permissions at the interface level. And it looks like they haven't adopted interfaces yet. And so that really is where permissions, I believe, will continue to evolve. I think the data layer is going to be considered admin access. And I don't see them adding table level permissions. They did for a minute, so there are like field level permissions to some extent, but that was prior to interfaces, so I don't see that changing.
And it's really just editing the field values. Like you can still see them regardless of what kind of user you are or who you are. So yeah, interfaces are definitely the way to go there.
Yep. All right. We always like to showcase competitors. Here's another one that came up. I'm not sure where I saw this, but somebody mentioned this. Actually, it might have been in that same thread. So I always like to see this one. This one I would say is definitely built by a developer. This looks like my kind of UI that I would come up with. No offense, but also I think the name is a bit difficult. Table. But I'm sure it's very powerful. So somebody built this. So if you're looking for maybe something a bit more developer centric, this might be something to explore. Somebody in the comments was using it. Tableda. Not sure how to say that. Table data apps. Tableda.
All right.
There you go. Let us know if you've used this one. Okay, going on to the BuiltOnAir community. Here's an interesting one. So trying to downgrade from business down to teams. It looks like they don't make it very easy, which might be understandable. They obviously don't want you to downgrade. But it looks like they make you go through this process. And understanding that you're going to lose functionality. But Jen had a good idea of basically saying maybe just create a new workspace because and then making that workspace be the team tier, and then you can move a base from one workspace to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, and so you will lose functionality in that point, but the ID should stay the same. I believe that's correct if you're just migrating. Especially now that even if you're making a clone, the ID should stay the same. So, at least the schema one. So, so that's one way if you're looking to downgrade, you do it.
Interesting that they don't. Yeah, like they're making you go from business to free. You can't go from business to teams, which I kind of understand when you think about like business gives you access to unlimited workspaces. And if you were to downgrade to team, then they'd have to charge you for every workspace that you've set up. So I guess it might make sense to have to go to free for all those workspaces so that you don't get slapped with a charge for every single one of them. But then it's a little, I don't know. But yeah, Jen's idea, I think, is best.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you got to go down to free. That's weird.
So is the team plan the only one with workspace limitations?
Yep, I believe so. You have to pay separately for every workspace. And then for free, you can have as many free workspaces as you want. But so, yeah, I think that's correct.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yep. All right. Last one. Okay, this is a question about have a table in one base being generated by a multi-source sync from another base. I have both sync sets set up to allow for creation of records in the destination base. However, I don't actually seem to be able to add records in the destination base. I suspect this is because of the multi-source sync. Does anyone know if it's possible? And then Gia helps out, says from the support article, the ability to create records in multi-source sync tables is not available. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So if you have multiple sources going into one destination, then you can no longer create records in that destination.
Yeah.
That's kind of frustrating.
It is. I mean, I can kind of understand why it might be difficult. I wonder if they were just like, that's too much work to do right now. Let's work on it later.
Mm-hmm. See if people complain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of it is because if you have two-way sync, it won't know which one to go to unless you set. Well, you wouldn't be able to. That's a read-only field that tells you what source it came from, so you can't tell it what source it should be associated with. But maybe it doesn't sync to either. It stays in the destination.
Yeah.
Then I wonder what the source. Yeah. So yeah, it does bring up some interesting scenarios. That's probably why they didn't tackle it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So something to be aware of if you rely on multi-source sync. Actually, don't rely on it too much, but could come in handy. All right. I was going to take care of a dog there. Okay. That wraps up our round the bases, keep you up to date. Relatively quiet week. I think, I don't know, usually companies, we've got a holiday here in the US this week. Happy Thanksgiving to those celebrating. And coming into the end of year holidays. So not sure if things will get quieted down. On the Airtable side, they may not want to release new features, new functionality going into the new year. So we'll see if things get quiet. But with that, shout out if you are using Airtable for your business, it's best practice to back up your data outside of Airtable. That's where On2Air Backups comes in, helps you sync your data to Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and now OneDrive. S3, Amazon S3 is coming soon. And so also the ability to restore and keep an eye on all your data, how it's synced, your backups, your attachments, as well as your schema. So check it out, on2air.com. We've had a great month. Welcome all of our new customers. I think this has been the best month we've had since inception. So excited to have all the new customers joining us. On2Air, use promo code BuiltOnAir for a discount and check it out and let us know how you're using it. So with that, Stoil, welcome to the show. I'm going to make you prominent here in a second.
I think I got kicked out because of internet issues for a bit, so I might have to share my screen again.
You're good. We'll wait on that till the next segment. So on this one, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and background and how you came into this world of Airtable?
Sure thing. So I used to work for a company called Tray.io in London. Do you guys know Tray.io?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's an iPaaS platform quite similar to Zapier, but a lot more enterprisey. And that's where I first heard the name Airtable, but it wasn't really on my radar. But that's where I met Bryce, my co-founder. And fast forward a few years, we kind of decided to do our own thing. And we decided to focus on the area of data synchronization and integrations because we kind of knew that world. So Treo taught us how to about that stuff, and then my co-founder also built a separate company around separate product called Notion Extensions that does integrations with Notion. And we're both engineers, so we kind of knew integrations. We knew about kind of making SaaS services talk to each other. So naturally, we decided to focus on that area. And we had to start somewhere. Basically, the conversation was like, okay, we're going to sync services. Let's pick a service to sync. What's a good one? And literally, we looked at a few servers. We looked at Notion, we looked at Airtable, and I really liked Airtable because basically the community was great, right? Including, this podcast, or is this podcast? This stream that I'm on, that's part of the community, and that was something we saw very early on. I was like, okay, this product has a really great community. If you're going to build tools for these specific services, you got to figure out where to find the people that use them and to kind of let them know you have this product. And we figured because of this amazing community, Airtable would be a good choice to kind of get started. So we started kind of looking into the product. It was pretty funny because we had not used it, but then my co-founder was like, okay, if we're going to build integrations for Airtable, we need to be Airtable consultants, basically. Let's start using Airtable for our own stuff. So we started using it for our CRM that we use internally for kind of our outreach and stuff that we do. And we became converts. So we actually started really liking, even for a personal, not just the product that we're building SyncGrip, but for our personal needs, CRM planning stuff has become our go-to tool. So like I was telling you before this call, even though I'm fairly new to Airtable, but to me it feels like the simplicity of Excel when you want it, but then you also have this whole other box of tools on top that you can use to kind of expand your workflow and meet your needs as your kind of needs and your process expand. So it's really cool. You can start really simple, which we did, and then you kind of learn the ins and outs of it and really take it to the next level. So yeah, we like the service. We started building this integration. We picked the second service, which was Asana, and we started working on a product that integrates both of those things. And that's what I'm going to demo for you guys today.
Cool. And as far as going into maybe tell us a little bit about your decision to even build this product and who your ideal customers are and who you're working with. Did you?
Sure. So, yeah, I think I'm having a little bit of internet trouble again. Hopefully we can make it work. Yeah, so this product, it does two-way data binding, data integrations. And essentially, our product is for anybody. It's meant for anybody that really likes Airtable's UI, but also has to use different tools. For example, some of the people that use SyncGrip really like managing their tasks in Asana. It has a better kind of task flow, but they also want to have those same records in Airtable because that's better for a lot of other kind of use cases. Just like pulling reports and stuff like that. And that's we went and built that for Asana and MailChimp. So MailChimp is another service we integrate with. And with MailChimp is the same thing. You need MailChimp obviously to manage your email campaigns and all that stuff. But Airtable is still a really good kind of medium to kind of look at your records, analyze what's going on, basically you want Airtable because it has such a great UI with all the features with the views and the interfaces and whatnot, but you still want to leverage these other services. So that will be one situation. This is maybe you're a project manager in a cross-functional team, and basically different strokes for different folks. Some people like to work out of Airtable. For example, your devs want the data in Airtable, and they kind of run their analysis and whatnot based on that data. But then your marketing team, let's say, they're running Asana, and there's no way to get those two to reconcile. Like everybody likes their tool, they're not switching. Well, then we give you the tool set to connect those things, and you set it up once, and you never have to think about integration again. The records are just going to be those services. So it's something you can also do with an iPaaS platform, like maybe let's say Zapier, but we just handle one specific use case, which is two-way data binding between two services, Airtable and MailChimp and Asana, which is the three connectors that we support so far. And it's really simple to set up. You can achieve the same effect with Zapier, but you're going to have to like handle a lot of complexity that you probably don't want to handle. For example, circular references, people, and a bunch of like complexity like that you probably don't want to deal with. It's funny when we talk to automation developers. What comes a lot is people will say, "Oh, I can just build this in Zapier. I don't need another product." Which, yeah, it's technically true, but it gets complicated. Trust us. Like if you're doing two-way data binding between two services, there's a lot of complexity that you don't want to handle.
Yep. Yeah, I've built it in Zapier, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very true. Cool. Yeah. If you want to,
it's kind of there.
Yeah. If you want to share your screen.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag, so I keep interrupting you. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to share us your SyncGrip. Mm-hmm. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the left here, it's our landing page, SyncGrip.com. And on the right here, I got Asana, a project in Asana, and a MailChimp audience. And I'm just really quickly going to connect both of those things with two separate tables in an Airtable base and show you how quick and easy it is to manage your stuff from Airtable by using SyncGrip as your middleman, as it were. So the product is super streamlined. You click login, and it just tells you, okay, just go ahead and log in with the service you want. So you just go ahead and let's say we want to log in with Asana. Okay, this takes you to our dashboard. If I go on connected services, Airtable and Asana are already on there. And let's just go ahead and create a synchronization with Asana. And actually, let's briefly look at Airtable as well. So like I said, in Airtable, I'm going to have two tables. We got Asana tasks, and I got MailChimp audience. So for Asana tasks, I have name, assignee, is this task done? This is like a Boolean field, and then due date. And let's go into SyncGrip, add a new sync. So these integrations between two services, we call them a sync. And now I choose Airtable, and I pick this table that I just showed you guys, sync tables, Asana tasks. And then I pick Asana, and I pick my workspace, and I pick marketing campaign. So marketing campaign is this project. And now I do field by field matching. So I got these fields in Asana, task name, assignee, due date, and similarly named fields in Airtable. So now I just match them. So we got name goes to name, assignee goes to assignee. Is this task done? The Boolean field I showed you, that's going to match to completed. This is the status of the task in Asana. And then due date, click create, and essentially it's now done. Anything I do in my Airtable table will get synced to Asana and vice versa. So let's really quickly go and import some records in Airtable. So I got this CSV called Asana tasks. I drop it in there. Let's see, connected to Asana tasks. Next. Exclude the first row. And this will now start writing into my Asana project. And as you can see, we process the records like one by one. So it's not like a batch update. We process them one by one. It's real time, kind of like we're limited by how fast the webhooks for these respective services work, but it's as close to real time as you can get. And then let's say now my marketing team, they're like, okay, create marketing tasks. I think I'm actually done with this one. In fact, I'm done with like a bunch of them. You just go and mark them, and then you got this great marketing strategy. You know what? I'm going to go and assign this to this person, and we should be able to see those changes propagated into Airtable in a bit. Here we go. Again, they're getting processed one by one. And then over on the Airtable side, let's say, hey, actually, I want to create a brand new task here. I don't know, prepare letters and assign this to myself and due date is tomorrow, and you can mark it as complete or not. And now you can see this gets created. So this is how it goes. You can use your Airtable interface to control an Asana project and vice versa, and everybody can use the tool they're happy with. Or maybe you yourself are using both of these tools and you just prefer to use the Airtable interface for some things, but you still like this Asana task workflow, which does have like some stuff that's specific to task management. That is pretty cool. And let's quickly connect MailChimp. So MailChimp is our new connector that we just released a week ago or so. So I'm going to show you how we authenticate with a new service. So if you go to connected accounts, you say connect a new account, and now we choose MailChimp. It's a no auth. We auth into the service, so it's super simple. You literally just put in your name and your password. You say, hey, yes, I want to give SyncGrip access to my app. And if I go into connected accounts, I can see this MailChimp authentication added in there. Okay, so exact same process as before. For MailChimp, I have an audience called newsletter, and I have a MailChimp audience table. Again, I want to link those two things and control my audience from my Airtable without worrying about things going, without the data getting stale or anything like that. So I match the MailChimp audience with the newsletter audience. And now, again, I go field by field. So email maps to email, status maps to status. First name. Obviously, I don't need to sync all of these fields. And obviously, well, it's not obvious, but we're going to have some quality of life features around this. So it's on our roadmap. Okay, so I've just created a sync with MailChimp, and now I can just do the same thing. I go into MailChimp. I add a CSV with my contacts. So I got this MailChimp audience CSV. This one is processing just a bit slower. Here we go. So put this into our MailChimp audience. Exclude the first row. And it's now started the syncing process again. It goes record by record and writes them into the audience. So unlike Asana, MailChimp doesn't do the auto refresh thing. So I have to like literally go and just refresh the page. Here we go, 10. So like it just added all of these contacts in my audience. And now let's say I'm managing my audience, and let's say David Harris, 79, and then David Adams, 62. These two people actually unsubscribed from my mailing list. We go and switch them to unsubscribed. I'm going to say this gets synced to my Airtable. And then let's say I'm looking at Alex Allen, and oh, I actually got the name for Alex Allen wrong. It's not Allen's, it's John's. I can update this contact, and if we find them in here, again, I need to just refresh. That's going to get the new name. So basically, it allows me to control those two services, Asana and MailChimp, completely from Airtable. I don't have to worry about stale data. It's all near real time. We process, we use a queue mechanism to process the records one at a time. So you shouldn't hit any limitations related to batch kind of importing data in those services. And that's the service in a nutshell. And we're going to be adding more quality of life features and more connectors in the future. So stay tuned.
Very cool. Yeah, I could definitely see the power and use of this. So to clarify, if you already had existing data, it doesn't sync existing data. It's only from once you set up the sync going forward.
Yeah, this is correct. But we're going to be adding a feature which we're referring to as backfilling right now. That is going to take care of setting up your historical data as well. So it's something that's come up a lot in our conversations with customers. So we're aware people want to do that, and it's on the roadmap.
Awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, this is definitely a common use case. And you are not, are you storing the data on your servers, or are you just pulling from one, going to the other?
We're not storing the data on our servers. We're just storing the record matches, right? So our system knows that this record is matched to something in, let's say, Asana, right? By IDs, but we don't look at your information. We don't store, more importantly, we don't store your information in any shape or form. So we don't have any access to your data whatsoever in terms of it doesn't get stored in our system. We never look at it or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a selling point, because I don't believe your competitors can say that. So I think that's something to highlight. Very cool. Thank you for showcasing that. And what's coming next? What's on the roadmap as far as new connections?
Good question. So we're very kind of feedback driven. So we try to listen to what people tell us they want, which is how we decided to do Asana and MailChimp after we picked Airtable as our original kind of service. ClickUp is one that keeps coming up. A lot of people keep saying, oh, I don't like Asana, I switched to ClickUp. So ClickUp has come up a lot. It might be our next connector. Notion is one that keeps coming up. HubSpot. So we'll have to pick which one we want to do. It also kind of depends on, we look at the service and we try to figure out, okay, let's figure out how complex it's going to be, right? Their APIs are not made equal. So some of them are a lot harder to integrate than others, which is also a factor. But number one thing is how many people want it. So ClickUp is coming next, I want to say, but it might change.
Yeah, fair enough. Awesome. Cool. So people can find you at SyncGrip.com. I think that's a great name. I think that's a good name. And wishing you best, and we'll get an update down the road, see how things are going.
Sure thing. Thanks for letting me present.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Shout out, if you have not joined our community, it's BuiltOnAir.com/join. We'll get you free access to our Slack community, as well as our amazing newsletter with great content, keep you up to date and everything in not just the Airtable world, but the broader no-code app development for internal tools community. And so join us, BuiltOnAir.com/join. Amazing people, thousands of users talking every day. And so we'd love to have you in there. With that, Alli is going to walk us through Documint.
All right. Excellent. So here is a very old base. The dates you can see here are from 2019, but the structure is still sound and holds up. Pretty classic example of junction tables, which I've been talking about a lot recently, showing how to structure invoices, products, and line items. But we're not going to talk too much about the structure today. We're going to talk about generating an invoice out of this data using an app called Documint, with an I, Documint with an I. It is a super robust document tool. You can create PDFs out of your Airtable data. I believe they actually have a couple other integrations as well. And it's very, very robust. Like I said, they've thought of all sorts of different things that can help you create beautiful looking PDFs. And there's a lot of pros to it that make it a really nice alternative to Page Designer. If you're familiar with Page Designer, there's some cons that kind of come with that extension, such as you can really only have one page. It doesn't dynamically expand and contract depending on how much you have on that page. And you can't automate it at all. Whereas with Documint, it can do all of those things, which is lovely. So I'm just going to go over a pretty simple example of how to generate an invoice out of this data. And I've already set it up in this base, but I'm going to kind of start from scratch a little bit. So we have a table of invoices and then a table of line items, which are tied to those invoices. So each line item here is relating to one invoice and one product. And we've got how much, the unit price of that product, how many is being sold for this invoice, and then the subtotal of that unit price times quantity. So if I want to be able to take all these line items and put them onto an invoice, I'm going to go into Documint, and I'm actually just going to grab a new template so you can see how this would go from scratch. They've got all sorts of cool templates in here. We can go with either one of these. Let's go with this one. This is the new version. Invoice 2, pretty aptly named here. I like this, Lori Ipsium Company. All right, so I'm not going to replace all of this stuff, but just for the sake of time here. But we'll focus really mainly on our line items here. So the way that invoice numeraire, they're missing a B here, but the way that Documint works is it's structured into these pieces of content that you can drag into the screen here. You basically always start with a row. So if I wanted to add something new, let me scroll. I don't know why it won't let me scroll down here. Yeah, so if I want to add like a new row, you drop that in, then you can drag in text into that row, for example, and start typing. And anytime you want to reference a variable, so something dynamic, you use two squiggly brackets, kind of like table. And then it would be like field name squiggly brackets. They're the way they name their variables is like they kind of strip out any special characters and they use underscores instead of spaces. If you ever need to know what the variable name would be for your base, they have an extension that you can put into your base. And once you've got it all set up, if you click on a record, you can go open up this invoice variables section and it'll show you all the fields on the table. And when you click on one, such as payment due, if I go over here and just paste, I pasted twice, but this will actually be the exact variable name that you need for that field. So that's super useful. All right, so let's get some stuff populated in here. I'm going to delete some things. Let's say I want to make my invoice number, actually have my invoice number. And so that's actually a good example here is I wouldn't know how to, like if that hashtag should be included in the variable name. So I'm just going to click on that field, go over here, and then paste it. That's so weird. It's like copying twice. But either way, there's my invoice. Dates, you can format however you want. They've got an example here, but I could change the way that this is formatted. And their documentation lays out all of their different ways to do it. So date, my field is actually named date, so I'm going to leave that how it is. And then let's skip right down to the line items. So the first thing that I do is you want to click somewhere in this line item. And then if you go to this layers tab, you can actually go up to, it'll show you like the grouping of all of the elements on the page. It's way easier than trying to like mouse over it, is to just go to the layers, find where the row is. And then you can see they've got logic set up where we're repeating this row for every item in line items. And it just so happens that that is also the name of the table and linked field that I need to repeat things. If it wasn't, like if this just said items, I'd want to go and change this by going to edit logic, repeat and loop on this tab here. And then you put in the name of the field that you are looping over. So in my case, it's called line items. But if you need to change that, that's where you would change it. It's a little confusing because you don't use the squiggly brackets in this place, but everything but the squiggly brackets is what would go here. And you can sort it as well, which is really cool. And you can sort it by multiple different fields and different directions. So super robust. So that's all I need to do here is just make sure that this is repeating off of that field. Then all of the fields that are within that repeating row are going to be the field names on my line items table. So if I pop over to here, I'm going to want the product and the unit price, the quantity, the item subtotal, etc. Now, because product is a linked record field, they treat that a bit differently. For the sake of time, I'm just going to create a formula field that reads the product name rather than get into how to like kind of dive in and get the product name. So we'll just do product, and I'm just going to call this product string. And hopefully that saves in a reasonable amount of time.
I'm on Airtable.
Yeah, right. We'll go back into Documint in the meantime. I don't really know what this field is. It says index. I don't need this, so I'm going to delete it. I want to just go to column, delete, and then here, delete. Now here, I'm going to make this be my product, which I said was product string with a space. The price is actually the unit price. So I'm just going to add unit underscore there. Quantity is also QTY, so I don't need to change that. And then amount, I have item subtotal. So we'll change that to item subtotal. Then we can go to the subtotal, and sales tax we don't have, but that's okay. This element here is outside of that row that's repeating. So now I'm back onto my invoices table. And I have a field called invoice total. So I can just use that instead of subtotal. We're going to make that say invoice total. Sales tax we won't ever have. We'll just leave that blank for now. And we'll make this also invoice total. All right. So that's all the work I'm going to do in Documint right now. I could, of course, get rid of the things I need and make these actually all fill in, but we only have so much time on the show. So now that I've got my document ready to test, I can decide to test it in one of two ways. They have a generation link, is what they're calling it. So they'll give you a link that you can click that will produce this document every time you click it, or you can use an automation script. I believe the automation script is only available on certain plan levels, whereas the generation link is available on all the plan levels. So the way that you do that, I believe we go up to these little, nope, not there. Sorry. Go away. Everything's in the way for me right now. Let's go. Yeah, data. I'm sorry. Then integrations. And then you're going to click on Airtable. And they'll give you all these different options. Oh, they also have the native app, which is that app I showed, the extension for Documint. So let's look at the generation link. So it'll walk you through setting up that formula. And every single one of these has like little help icons. And they also do have a really nice documentation page as well. So all sorts of stuff here that they're showing you how to do. But I want to first grab the table URL for my invoices table. So I'm just going to go, let's just close this. I'm going to copy this and paste that in here. I usually get rid of the last part, so it just ends with the table ID, but I think that it's smart enough to know even if you pasted the whole thing in, it wouldn't matter. I'm going to tell it what the attachment field name is that I want this saved to, which in my case is just invoice. So we'll type that in there. You can choose whether you want to overwrite the attachment. So every time I click the link, it'll replace the attachment that was already there, or it can just add on, like append the new attachment every time. And then we want to decide whether we need to expand the linked records or not. And what that means is if we are only using the record values from one table, we are not expanding our linked records. But because we are actually using that repeat/loop function to dive across and get all of our line item data, we are expanding these linked records in the eyes of Documint by one level, because we go, this is the first level, line items is the second level. So we do want to expand linked records by one. Now there's one more thing that you need to keep in mind that they require you to do if you are expanding those linked records. And that is you need to have a formula field. They've got a whole page on this with the table ID of the table that you're expanding into. I hope that makes sense. But because I need to, from my invoices table, dive into my line items table, what they want you to do is set up a formula field with the name of the field. So this is the line items. In my case, they're both named the same, but they might not be in your use case. So this is going to be the name of the field that you're diving into. And then the table ID, it needs to say table_ID. That's how you have to name this field. And they also show it in their documentation. This is terrible because they don't put this in quotes, so it's a little misleading, but you need to grab the table ID of line items. So if I go here, I would copy this value, which I'll do now just to make sure it's the same still. Yeah, I've duplicated this base many times, so I can't remember if this is the same or not, but it was. Now we hit save. So as long as we have that expanding of the linked record should work. So now it's giving me this formula that I can copy. And I'll just go add it to a button field. What is going on? Oh, I put quotes in. There we go. Yeah. That was just habit. Okay, then we'll do generate invoice and make it blue. All right, let's go test it out.
How do we do?
With any luck. What was that?
And there is a question here once you get done.
Okay.
Audience.
Excellent. So that did work, and it looks rather nice. So we've got item A, item B, item C. We've got our invoice number in here. We've got the date, quantity, all the amounts, and it's adding everything up, which is lovely. It's got the made with Documint branding on it. I believe I'm on a paid account that I could remove this, but I also have this not in the active mode. So once you turn this on, that is when the branded footer will go away, and also when it'll start counting towards your quota that you get with your plan. So as you're testing, make sure that you have this off so that it's not going to be counting towards your merges. And cool. Yeah.
So here's the question from Alicia. If you have a lot of line items, do you know if it handles the page break in a pretty way?
It's a great question. It can, and you can actually control a lot about the page breaks. When I mouse over, let me grab this row. They have an option in here where you can say, it says break across pages. You can tell it to avoid it. So that way, if it's going to run on to the next page, it'll just cut it off and then go on to the next page, which is really great. They've thought of like all sorts of different things in here. You can also actually insert a page break. So like if you have a big long contract and you always want the like signing lines to be on the last page, you can actually insert a page break line just like you can in Word, which is great. They've thought of all sorts of different things. You can even render Markdown. That's what this means. This little $MD means if you have Markdown in your customer address field, it'll render that, make things bold, italic, line breaks, etc., which is really nice.
Very cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a powerful tool. At some point, we're going to do a dedicated show where we showcase all the different like report builders and kind of do a compare and contrast, but Document's definitely a popular one. I know they started in Airtable and then branched out from there. So they support a couple other different platforms, but awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Alli.
Of course.
And that wraps up not only our show, but our season and our year for 2024. So we will be back in 2025 with a new season. Lots of new exciting guests. We're so grateful for everybody that's been a part of our podcast and the community. And it's just amazing to see what people are up to. And Alicia is a fan of that idea of showcasing the different products. And so, yeah, we have that. We have a lot of ideas of not just report builders, but third-party portals and kind of do compare and contrast. So hopefully in 2025, we roll that out along with a lot of other big news and announcements that we're working on. So thank you to everybody in our community. It's amazing to interact with you all and see what everybody's doing. Until then, have a great end of year. Enjoy your holidays, and we will see you in 2025. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our sponsor, OnToAir Backups, automated backups for Airtable. We'll see you next time on the Built on Air podcast.